In this video, I'm going to show you one of my favorite tricks to enhancing and editing a photo quickly and to add an awesome level of pop to your photos. This is a feature that I barely hear anyone ever talk about, and honestly, I think most photographers and editors don't even know it exists. It is the color lookup feature. You can find it by going to the adjustment layers, which is this little half white, half black circle in the layers panel down here. It's right here, color lookup. Or if you have your adjustments panel open, you can click on this little table looking deal and it will create the color lookup adjustment layer. So what this does is it's loading LUTs, LUTs or lookup tables. A lookup table is basically an X and Y chart that takes what colors your image is and makes them into the colors from a different image. And as you can see, there's a wide variety of color, wild looks and cool styles to be had, and all I'm doing is just scanning through all these LUTs that I have downloaded. There's about 10 or more that come with Photoshop, and I recently just downloaded a pack of some other free ones from Shazim Creations. They're really nice and colorful, and there's some others that I found somewhere else online. So what this is actually doing is it's loading color and brightness data that has been captured from another image. And I'll show you in a minute how to make your own LUTs based on your own edits and reuse them on other images in the future. So I really like this Kodak 5205 Fuji 3510 LUT. It just looks really vibrant. Now, because these adjustment layers are layers, which are non-destructive, we have a lot of control. We can preview what it looks like without it by hiding it, by clicking the visibility eyeball, so before and after. But in terms of editing, we can control the opacity. So we can put this whole adjustment layer at 50%. Now it's only doing this LUT at 50%. Or let's turn it back up to 100, and we also have these blending modes to play with. So as you scan through the blending modes with your keyboard, you get all kinds of wild effects. My personal favorites is overlay and soft light. Now they're a bit intense at first. I'll usually just turn those down to 80 to 50% to get what I want. But yeah, lots of creative possibilities. Let's go to another image. With my zoom tool selected, which is the letter Z, I'm going to click Fit Screen on the top. Go down here to my adjustment layers, quick menu, and create a color lookup table. Now here's what I like to do. I like to select the first one, and now that that drop down menu has been selected by Windows, see how that blue squares around it? That means the focus is on that, which means my keyboard is going to control it. So I'm going to use my down arrow to just scan through the different LUTs and see one that I like. And once I find one that really stands out to me, then I may keep it or I may tweak it. Now here's another cool trick. Because these LUTs are adjustment layers, like I said earlier, we have opacity and blending modes. We also have a mask. What if we love what it does to our image, but one of the colors is a little off? Like honestly, there's a lot of teal with this LUT. Her skin tone looks okay. Usually skin tones get pretty crazy, but we can use a black paintbrush on the mask layer and we can paint away the area we don't want it to be really changed. So I'm going to bring back her blue of her scrub, top here, by painting black over it. There we go, and maybe on top of the electricity. There we go. So if I look at my mask, by alt-clicking on the mask thumbnail, that's what my mask is. So the black area, the LUT is not doing anything. The white area, the LUT is at full force. So let's go back to normal mode, clicking on the layer here. There we go. So if I turn on and off my LUT, here's what it is. It's really just affecting everything outside of her scrub top. And here's a few favorite photos and what they look like with using different LUTs. Now, LUTs are a commonplace thing in the videography world. It's called color grading, and in professional video editing softwares can actually use the same exact technology and even the same LUTs to color grade video files, and vice versa. You can use video grading LUT files to color grade your images. So it's kind of a nice universal technology that you can use on video or photo. Let's do something crazy with this one. I'm going to grab the foreground and I'm going to move it to a top layer, and I'm going to keep the background on the bottom layer. So I'm basically separating the foreground and the background as separate layers, and I'm going to use different LUTs on each of them to really get something cool. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time perfecting the selection. I'm just going to use the basic subject select and a mask. All right, so now I can click on the bottom layer, create an adjustment layer, which is the color lookup, and I can use any look I want, of course. Let's use that one's pretty cool. Now if I click on the top layer, which is the subject, and make another adjustment layer on top of him, which is color lookup, and I need to click on this so that this only affects the layer below it. So here we go. Now I can select another LUT and it'll only affect him. Now we've got a nice separation between foreground and background. You can do different color temperature type LUTs like this. He's kind of cool now. The background is warm. Or you can make the background more creative and abstract looking, whereas he is pretty natural and real looking. It's really up to you. Lots of creative possibilities when you get separate LUTs going in the same photo. Just try not to make them clash too much, or if they do clash, make sure it's purposeful and tasteful. All right, now lastly, I'm going to show you how to make your own LUT. Now to do this, I'm going to open a raw image in Photoshop. It doesn't have to be a raw image. I just want to start with, a mostly unedited photo. Go up here and fix my white balance real quick. Make it a decent exposure. There we go. So I'm going to click open. Now it'll open as a new Photoshop document. What we do now is we need to create any number of other adjustment layers to alter this original image, and then we're going to save it as a LUT. So again, the LUT is going to say, okay, this type of red right here is going to turn into the new color of red after all of your adjustment layers have been added. And this blue, what was this blue, is going to turn into a new kind of blue based on the adjustment layer. So let's make a few adjustment layers. I'll start off with a curve. And I'm going to make this like a nice contrasting curve, but the bottom end's going to have some matte cutting on the bottom end. There we go. A little bit of a film look. And then I'm going to play with color balance, one of my favorites. Make it kind of a red. The shadows I want to be like a red as well. And the highlights, let's make the highlights kind of cold. Not saying this is a great edit, but for the example, you'll get the point. And then let's do something else. Let's do like a hue and saturation, and maybe drop the saturation a little bit. There we go. Okay, so crazy looking edit. That's okay. Next, to turn this into a LUT, we're going to go to File, Export, and Color Lookup Tables. All right, now we're going to name the description dull blue to red. I don't know, whatever you want to name it, doesn't matter. Keep your quality at medium. If you go up too high, the file size gets huge, and keep the grid points to 32. This is going to make an indistinguishable, reusable LUT. And I'll show you in a minute how it looks exactly like the original. So keep cube checked and ICC profile checked. So let's click OK. And this is actually going to save it as a LUT file. See it on here, .lut. I'm going to put it back in this guy's folder. Let's call it Dresden LUT. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to do something cool where we can compare this photo with these adjustment layers versus this photo with the LUT on top. And I'm pretty sure they're going to look identical. So let's turn off the lock, select all of these and put them into a folder. Let's duplicate the folder. So now we've got two folders. It's the same. On this top folder, I'm going to delete these adjustment layers, but I'm going to add the color lookup table. And what am I going to load? I'm going to load Dresden's LUT. There it is. All right. Cool, look familiar? All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn off this top layer, and we're only going to see the bottom layers, which is the original edits we did to the original raw. Watch this. I'm turning it off. You can't tell any difference. On, off, on, off. So when it's on, we've got the LUT being applied to this raw image here, overlaying everything below it. We can't see this layer, this group at all. It's totally covered up. If I turn this group off, now we're seeing the original raw with all these adjustment layers. So in other words, a LUT is just as good as all these three adjustment layers combined. Now we cannot tweak these anymore because a LUT is destructive, like a color profile, sort of like an Instagram filter on steroids. But that's okay. For what we're doing here, and generally what LUTs are used for, they're not tweaked. They're meant to be made and finalized and used and used and used over and over to achieve the same look on various sources of media. So you just made your first LUT file. Congratulations. If you want to make sure that this LUT is in the right place where you can use it again, we need to put it in the same folder as all of these guys. So to do that, and I'm on Windows, I'm going to go to the Photoshop folder that it's stored in, which is C, Program Files, Adobe, Photoshop 2020. I need to get rid of those other ones. 2020, Presets, and 3D LUTs. Now 3D does not mean 3 dimensions. If it does, it's referring to RGB. So just don't think about 3D in the normal sense. But we need to put our LUT file here. As you can see, these are all my files that I have. If we drop it in here, it will show up in the normal area of this menu. And every time we turn on Photoshop, it'll be here waiting for us to use. So that is LUTs in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. And I hope you have fun playing with the color lookup table adjustment layer. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll come back again soon.